Jury selection is underway in Hunter Biden's federal gun trial in Delaware. This is one of the two trials the president's son is facing. He's accused of making false statements about his drug use when purchasing a gun in 2018. If found guilty, he could face a prison sentence of up to 25 years. First Lady Jill Biden arrived at the court earlier today to support her stepson. The president was not in attendance this morning, but he released a statement saying he loves his son and is, quote, proud of the man he is today, end quote. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane is following the trial for us. He's outside the courthouse in Wilmington, Delaware. So, Scott, walk us through this plea deal that fell apart in the case and how we got to this trial.
They were this close to cutting a plea deal that would have averted this trial and the spectacle it's about to become, but it fell apart in the courtroom when the federal judge was pushing at some of the weak spots on it. In fact, a lack of clarity or a lack of agreement between the parties about what was included. So here we are on the opening day of this first ever trial of a president's son in a jury selection process that, as the afternoon began, was clearly on a trajectory to consume the entirety of this first day. They have 250 potential jurors. They have to whittle down to a list of 12 with 4 alternates. And the case has been, from the start, one that involves statements or alleged false statements. What did Hunter Biden say or check with his pen when he filled out an application in October 2018 to buy a firearm? According to the Department of Justice, he made false statements when he did not acknowledge he was a user or addict of drugs when he bought the gun, a required question on the paperwork. They've also charged him with a third felony for unlawfully possessing the gun while an addict or user of drugs. And Lindsay, when this trial's arguments begin, the witness list for prosecutors includes Hunter Biden's ex-wife, his brother Beau Biden's widow, with whom Hunter Biden had a romantic relationship, and others who will testify about the very granular and, to a degree, very sad moments of the depths of his drug addiction in October 2018.
So what can we expect from Hunter Biden's defense team? What are they going to argue?
They just have one of their legal legs chopped out from beneath them. Late last night, the judge ruled out one of the 2 expert witnesses they were going to call to talk about addiction and the role trauma plays in producing or creating addiction. So he's got one less witness to call. But from the pre-trial motions, Lindsay, it's quite clear Hunter Biden's going to make an argument through his defense attorneys that it was less than clear he was an addict or a drug user when he was filling out those gun forms, that he was in rehab, that he was recovering, that he wasn't using drugs at that moment. So there was a lack of clarity about whether he considered himself an addict. But maybe that's more of a term of art than of science.
All right, Scott, thank you.
Do you think that's appropriate? Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor. You're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes. No, I don't need your answer. I want to talk about this right here.
Mr. Chairman,
Fauci,
objection.
Mr.
Objection.
I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time, Mr. Raskin.
Gentlelady will suspend.
Mr. Chairman,
Point of order.
Just in terms of the rules of decorum, are we allowed to deny that a doctor is a doctor just because we don't want him to be a doctor?
Yes, because in my time, that man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked, and he belongs in prison.
Gentlelady will suspend. And the gentlelady should recognize the doctor as a doctor.
Dr. Fauci, I am so sorry you just had to sit through that. That was completely irresponsible. Quite frankly, we are here.
Well, for the first time in American history, the son of a sitting president is going on trial and facing potential jail time. Jury selection is now underway in Hunter Biden's federal gun case in Wilmington, Delaware. He's accused of illegally buying and owning a gun while being addicted to drugs. Now, all of this comes just days after a jury found former President Donald Trump guilty on 34 felony counts. NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delaney is live for us right now outside that courthouse. Ken, good Monday to you. First off, just what sort of questions are these potential jurors being asked as part of this election?
Great to see you, Morgan. Just the kind of questions you would assume they'd be asked about their political beliefs, about what they know about the case. Do they have strong opinions about any of the players? Do they believe the justice system is fair, that the FBI, the Justice Department, prosecutes cases for political reasons? And these questions are particularly important in a state like Delaware, where they're drawing from the entire state of 1 million people, but where the Biden family has been prominent in politics for 50 years. So we had one juror, for example, who was an acquaintance of Jill Biden, the First Lady, who happens to be in the courtroom today. He was nonetheless deemed qualified for the jury. Right now, they've plowed through about 31 prospective jurors, and about half of them have been excluded for various reasons. This doesn't mean the other half are on the final jury, but they're going through a first cut to see who may be qualified.
And Ken, President Biden, he did put out a statement about his son today. Obviously, this is coming at a very tricky time for the president with the election just moments away. What exactly is he saying?
Yeah, he did put out a really important statement for what it didn't say, because at one point, Joe Biden said, my son did nothing wrong, and people thought that was inappropriate because, after all, the Justice Department works for the executive branch, and President Biden's ultimately the head of it. So in this statement, he said that he expressed, a love for his son as a father, but he wasn't commenting on the federal case, just sort of reemphasizing that he and his wife, Jill, are standing by their son in this time of difficulty. And this is going to be a tough situation for the Biden family. It's interesting. A poll in January showed that 52% of Americans.
Now, China has accused Britain's intelligence service, MI6, of recruiting a couple who worked for the Chinese government to spy for the UK. The State Security Ministry in Beijing claimed that MI6 recruited the couple when they were visiting the UK and then sent them back to China to collect information. There's no word so far from the UK authorities on the case. Well, the BBC's Laura Bicker is in Beijing and she's got more details now about the alleged spies.
Well, these allegations were actually posted by the Ministry of State Security on their WeChat channel. Now, WeChat is the Chinese version of kind of any social media app. So they've got their own channel, which they launched last August. And here they are putting details of allegations of spying. Now, the allegations centre around Mr. Wang and his wife, Miss Zhou. They say that he went to the UK in 2015 to study, and there MI6 operatives, they say, recruited him. They took him out for tours, they took him out for dinner to find his weaknesses. They said that he had a strong desire for money, according to this report, and that the MI6 operatives exploited this. In fact, they say that Mr. Wang was initially hesitant but could not resist persuasion, enticement and even coercion. And they say that eventually Mr. Wang was given espionage training by MI6 and sent back to China to give to learn more about the Chinese government and pass that information to MI6 operatives. Now, we've had no word from the British government or from MI6 on this, and at the moment this is just simply a statement reported by China from the Ministry of State Security. But this channel in recent months has also posted information to citizens asking them to be wary of foreign beauties, of exotic beauties that may lure them into the hands of foreign spies. They've also asked citizens to be wary about what they're posting on their social media, for instance, pictures of airports, etc., that could be used by foreign spy agencies.
With the way that it feels, welcoming and free, like to be able to have a space, to be able to have a month, to be able to have just the time to be able to celebrate and just be who you are, whatever part of the LGBTQ plus is amazing.
This is amazing. So people are happy and enjoying like the good day. The day is getting beautiful. And it's so calm and safe to be here. It's like amazing.
Fire crews in California are battling the state's largest wildfires so far this year. The so-called Corral Fire erupted Saturday just outside the city of Tracy, which is about 60 miles east of San Francisco. More than 14,000 acres have burned so far, forcing thousands of people to evacuate. CBS News senior national and environmental correspondent Ben Tracy is in California covering this for us. I see behind you what looks like some remnants there of the fire. Tell me what's behind you and how much this fire is contained.
Yeah, so this house back here, we believe, is the one structure in this fire that was completely destroyed. And that's pretty remarkable when you think about a 14,000-acre fire that was growing and spreading as fast as this one was. The really good news is firefighters have made extraordinary progress. This fire, they tell us, is now 75% contained. And when you get to that kind of number, that means they really do have control of this. And when we look out in the distance, we see, charred hillsides, but you don't see flames, you don't see smoke. So they're feeling pretty good about where they're at, but obviously a big loss for the person who lived here. There also were 2 firefighters that were injured, but we are told that they are going to be okay. So this could have been a lot worse than it is. So I think people are really crossing their fingers that with these heavy winds today, that this thing doesn't somehow pick back up.
Yeah, and also, here we are June 3rd. I'm from Arizona, so I know that it's not necessarily too early for something like this. But does something as big as this already in the season forebode the season? And also, what can you tell us about this heat dome that's expected to hit the West?
Yeah, this does seem a little ominous. This is early for a wildfire of this kind in California, but we also have to acknowledge that in the age of climate change, there really is no wildfire season anymore because spring is coming much earlier. The hot temperatures are lasting longer. So you do have these wildfires at times of the year that, 20 years ago, you might not have experienced those. And then you mentioned this heat dome that is coming. That is going to impact this area. It's also going to impact a wide area of the Southwest, including major population centers like Las Vegas and Phoenix. Temperatures here expected to be 10 to 15 degrees above normal. And so certainly that does elevate fire risk once you have that combination of strong winds like we have today and then extreme heat.
Okay, Ben, thank you so much, you and your crew, for bringing us this.
Thanks.